Mike, great to see you again at the start of pre-season training. Obviously last time we saw you, heartbreaking circumstances at the Valley, plenty to reflect upon but also to draw a line on. But firstly, a busy summer started with the departure of some pretty big names and popular faces around here.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that I kind of recognise the fact that obviously the season finished really abruptly, and I didn't get an opportunity based on the emotion really more than anything to recognise the people that have left the football club, and I can't mention them all in terms of individually because we'll be here for a while, but I think it's one thing I want to try and do is recognise obviously the players that left the football club at the end of the season. I want to thank them for their efforts. I thought the majority of them in terms of the contribution was colossal really, but one person in particular who was a huge help for me coming into the football club, and I've got a huge amount of admiration for, is obviously Sam Vokes. And as I said, I don't want to single anyone out, but I think just a thank you from me publicly really for Vokesy in terms of how he made me feel when I came into the football club, the advice and help that he's given me, and he'll be someone that I'll have in high regards in terms of moving forward. And I want to wish him all the very best in terms of his next chapter and whatever that is.
Obviously the way the season ended and the number of players that left have meant it's been a very busy summer of planning. I know a lot of planning began before the end of the season. How have you found it? Obviously your first summer and pre-season as Wycombe Wanderers head coach. Enjoyable, busy, I'm sure?
Yeah, very enjoyable, very busy. It was everything I expected it to be, I'll be honest with you. It was huge amount of planning in terms of the direction that we want to go with the squad and the playing style, and it was really important for me to get this window right. I think we've worked really hard behind the scenes to do a huge amount of business early, which isn't always the kind of golden egg in terms of making sure the season goes right. I appreciate that, but it was important in terms of the direction we want to take the playing style, that we did our business early so we can get them in today and start to kind of lay those foundations over the next kind of 5 weeks ready for the first game of the season.
At the time of recording, there have been 6 new faces in at Wycombe Wanderers. We won't go through all of them in detail, but some intriguing names in there, some names that fans won't have been so familiar with. I guess that shows the depths and the levels of, I guess, scouting and recruitment now that the club are going into, and some really exciting prospects to come as the season progresses. Yeah,
definitely, and I'm not one to kind of comment on the past. I'm looking at the future, but I think the signings are different maybe than what the club has kind of previously recruited. My role and responsibility now is obviously to try and get them to kind of integrate and gel as quickly as possible, and also to evolve what was happened previously. I think I want to kind of draw a line in the sand of how the kind of season ended, but there is a huge amount of work from me personally that now needs to go on in terms of implementing my style, implementing what I want to do with the group, and today is probably kind of the first steps to changing maybe the style of play and changing one or two things in terms of the way we operate on a Saturday.
Yeah, what does pre-season look like? I guess today, not so much your domain because they're in the gym and they're doing the sports science bits and the testing, but going forward and next week at Loughborough, a chance not just to get on the grass and get the footballs out, but also at the social element as well and gelling those new players into the squad.
Yeah, we've got some bits of kind of, as you said, social elements integrated into the planning. It's about understanding that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So, naturally what happens, players come back with a higher level of, enthusiasm probably, because they've had the break and they're itching to get back. So it's making sure that we've integrated our planning properly, that we're building up to that first game of the season. But more importantly, it's not just that first game of the season, it's the 50 plus games that we're probably going to have to endure next season, and making sure that the foundations are laid to make sure that we don't experience maybe similar things that we experienced last year, in terms of we kind of flatlined a little bit in terms of our performances, and making sure that we can sustain ourselves for the whole course of the season.
what's been great today is seeing not just the first team back, but the first official day, I guess, of pre-season of the academy. So much activity going on, a real hive of activity, and it just shows, and I think we've heard from the new signings, their excitement at the project going forward, that the launch of the academy this summer is going to bear fruit for years and years to come.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the reason why I'm sat here today. You know, I'm not naive that the project from the ownership group is to build a sustainable football club, and my previous club was done through that by developing their own and developing players through the academy system. So yeah, hugely exciting times in terms of developing the future and what the future will look like. Everyone that's obviously been brought to the football club is fully on board with, as I said, a sustainable Wycombe and developing young players. Obviously that is something that is a long-term project. In the short term, we've got to make sure we recruit the type of player that can go with us on that long-term journey, but also in the short term help us develop a style of play that, I go back to that word, that is sustainable.
Yeah, loads for the fans to be excited about. And I want to finish on the fans, because I think at the end of last season, the kind of abrupt end to the game at Charlton, the pitch invasion, the lack of opportunity really for you and the guys to go over and show your appreciation for their support. But there is a lot of positivity growing now within the fans ahead of the new season, the new training kits, the new players that are arriving, and a real opportunity, I guess, for your first pre-season and for many of the players and staff to create something new, to turn over that new leaf and for them to be part of that journey now.
Yeah, I'm always really conscious around the new bit, because I don't want it to be new. I want it to have a tinge of the past, but also be really kind of future focused in terms of we want to propel through these leagues as quickly as we can. And how we do that is having a real strong way of working. I'm not naive in terms of I came in for that kind of final period of the season, and there was some performances that were okay, there were some performances that weren't okay. I'm not naive to that. And one thing I said to the ownership group and one thing I said internally was there was a huge amount of stuff that I wouldn't change and I wouldn't overly affect. And I think July 1st, Monday, so June 30th, is my opportunity, is a little bit of a line in the sand and actually put my imprint on the team. So I was as frustrated as everyone else in terms of some of the things that happened towards the end of the season. But it's now my opportunity to go and put my imprint on what I feel is the way forward for this football club and for the players that we've signed. And I'm really excited about what that looks like. And actions speak louder than words. The proof will be in the pudding. A couple of puns for you. But yeah, I'm really excited in terms of what that looks like, and I'm 100% confident that in the not too distant future, everyone will see what that looks like.